I've been asked many times to do videos about character design. And the thing is there are so many aspects to character design, but it can be very overwhelming to tackle it as a whole. That being said, I've come to the point of realizing there is a good approach to getting started that can actually take you a very long way. So here's 5 tips that I think will really help you out when getting started with your next character design project. Number one, first and foremost, and this you've heard me say things like this before, but be playful. It's very important to be playful. You want to approach this not as like a procedure, like a technical procedure, but as something where you're like, okay, what is my character going to look like? What's his personality or her personality? What is their, motives? A lot of things can come into play when you're thinking about your character, and I'm speaking specifically about the visual aspects of character design. So knowing some of those things up front is a good thing. But when you have some sort of idea of what your character is going to be, just start to play around with different ideas. Whatever pops into your mind, whatever related things that, this character is kind of like a character from a video game I was playing, or this character is like something I saw in a movie, a character I saw in a movie. Start playing around with the stuff you already know and then just riff off of it, just kind of try different things surrounding the initial idea. Number 2, use crude or imprecise tools to play around with the visualization of your character. In my recent attempt at that with the project I'm working on currently, I was using a Sharpie. You could also use like a brush or a ballpoint pen. I love using ballpoint pen just to sketch. But I like a Sharpie a lot because it's just very crude, and it's easy to not get caught up in detail. And a less than sharpened pencil can work as well. But pencils are a little tough because you usually erase pencils and you can get into trouble just constantly erasing, where you should just try going to the next idea as you're playing around. Once again, using a crude, imprecise tool can definitely help you in this process to have some freedom and to keep playing. Number 3, take time to explore and experiment. Now, this sounds similar to the first, be playful, but the point is to take time, not to rush things. That's very important, and something that I made the mistake of doing before, or trying to do. And what you'll find if you do try to rush character design is that you just can't. It's kind of, I don't know, in my experience, it's kind of impossible to actually rush it. It always ends up taking much longer than you would have expected initially, or what you would like it to take. So just know that the process of designing a character is going to take some time, and it's worth it though. And if you know that ahead of time, you'll be less stressed, you'll have less anxiety about the prospect of creating your character, and you'll have more fun. So take the time, again, to explore and experiment with different ideas. And if you take the pressure of trying to get it done in a specific amount of time out of the equation, you'll actually find that you come to your solution quicker anyways. This isn't a situation where pushing too hard actually is detrimental to the process, in my experience at least. I've found that I approach character design differently each time I sit down to do it, and that's what I've been finding in my process recently. And so one thing that I did this time and this is, again, tip number 4 that I feel like can be helpful right out of the gate, is to play around with proportion. In this time I used the golden section, which is a tool / concept that I learned about through watching a video from Stephen Silver. And this tool that I actually got from Stephen Silver's website. You can get it for only $10 even still, which is really cool. And he hand makes these things, which is really neat. But he's got an awesome YouTube channel. There's a link in the description if you want to check out more about the idea and the tool of using the golden section. But that being said, you don't need to use the golden section. That's just a fun way to kind of get to interesting proportions that are used in very, very many really cool character designs. But what you want to do is just literally play with like how big is, this is almost like a cartoony approach. Like, even if you're drawing a realistic character, it can help to play with proportions and exaggerate proportions. So, how big is the torso going to be versus the legs? I do a lot of that, switching between, bigger torso, bigger legs, length. How small is the head? How big is the head? All this kind of stuff. And even though I knew in this instance that I was going to have a heroic character, I still wanted to play with proportion and see if there was some fun way of kind of mixing things up that would help. So I did a lot of that. Number 5, mix and match reference. Now, throughout the process, you'll be collecting reference, most likely, because it's helpful in character design. And this time I used a bunch of things for reference, and I'm still working this character out, so I'm still finding different references and things like that. And I will be throughout the whole process of even designing pages once I've gotten the character designs down and this and that. The reference is something that is used in the beginning throughout all stages of creativity, in my opinion. But again, you want to mix and match references. You don't want to use one reference and basically get to a point where you're plagiarizing and copying other people's work. So mixing is a good way to kind of avoid that. And also taking just your own influence from past experiences and stuff like that. Like, I use a lot of my influences from my days of being involved in the hip-hop world and just stuff growing up and things I've been into. All that plays into this, but I also had specific references that I was using for this character design. I used clothing and proportion from Fist of the North Star. I really like the proportions of those characters and the clothing. I also got more clothing ideas from some Star Wars comics. I'm trying to get a little bit of a primitive design into this character, so random barbarian comics were useful. And also this comic that I'm working on is going to have a very kind of a horror vibe and a dark vibe, and so Hellboy and Sin City, and how they both of those artists, Frank Miller and Mike Mignola, spot blacks, they do that really well, and they create a very dark mood, and that is something that I'm playing with as well as I'm working through these designs. If you just take only these 5 tips, there's so much more to character design, so many different techniques, but if you just take these first 5 tips, you can run with these for a very long time, and I think they'll serve you well. If you want to keep up to date with the progress of this comic and other things I'm doing, check out donkeyjawprojects.com, where you can sign up for my newsletter, and also you can see the progress of my 100 days of making comics this round at my Instagram, also at Marsh Makes Comics. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you on the next one.